So welcome back and thanks so much for joining me again today. Well, in this episode what we're going to look at is how to randomly spawn targets. And then the second thing we're going to look at is just another way to kind of pop up a target. Now what I mean by random is let's just jump into the map and let's just disregard that guy moving back and forth. He's just really annoying, but I'll explain him in a moment. But basically if we look back at that building and we step on the trigger, we can see that these little target guys are going to pop up sort of in these windows and in the doors. Now, what I mean by random is that the actual points where they're spawning is predetermined, but the order in which that they spawn is going to be random. And that way we get a certain spontaneity and unpredictability to the game. And I think that's perfect is what we're looking for in sort of a shooting gallery game. So I think we're going to look at that first. And now when we build these sequences in our maps and I make these videos, we're building them for specific purposes, but the point of this is that these sequences are adaptable and flexible. So once we get some of these fundamentals down, if we use our imagination, we can kind of set this up a little bit differently. And that's what I've done over here. Now, if you've ever played Battlefield 5, there's a sequence in their shooting range, their practice range, where there's this kind of wall and these targets pop up, and that's what I've replicated here. So if we step on that trigger, these little targets will pop up in different places on the wall. Now I haven't wired those targets to be destructible and they're not wired to our point system. I just kind of wanted to illustrate it. But again, it's totally controllable with respect to the time between when the targets pop up and how long they stay up. And we can adjust that in addition to the distance to the wall. That's how we can establish our difficulty. So again, the point of this is once we get the sequence down, with a slight change, we can sort of totally change the feel of it and get kind of two shooting practices out of just one sort of technique. So I always wanted to do videos like that where it's flexible. And then the other way we're going to look at is just how to sort of pop up the player. So if I step on here, he kind of pivots up and we can shoot him. And that's kind of reminiscent of the old school sort of shooting ranges simulators where these things pop up out of nowhere and we can shoot them. And, we can always do a victim sort of pop up too and get penalties for, shooting somebody that you're not supposed to. We'll look at that in a future video. Now, I was just experimenting. I mean, this guy just sort of pivots. I don't think we're going to show that. That's not particularly exciting. And this one, the guy just pops up. I don't think we're going to show that either. And then here, I just sort of built a sequence and you just sort of string together your timelines and maybe a future video. But let's talk about this guy that's moving around. Now, I think we're definitely going to want to put this in our game. But getting a guy to move back and forth is a little involved, and I think if I include it in this video, it's going to be too long. And I think we're going to do a part 2 just for moving this guy around, and I'll show that in the next video. But again, it's totally adaptable, and we can totally control everything about that. That is the distance he travels, the speed he travels, and then you can see at the end of the travel, he kind of sits there for a bit. And again, that time that he sits there is adjustable as well. So I think that'll be for a next video. All right, and just one other thing, we're probably not going to use those little green guys. They're okay, but we built this guy, so we're going to use this guy instead in our video. So stick with me, and let's jump in here and have a look at how to spawn random targets. Now, I'm just in our map here that I've been developing our shooting game in. This is where we built our little target guy, a little destructible, as well as our point system. So we're just going to develop in this map today. And there are a couple of different ways that I know of how to spawn targets randomly. One way we can define a volume and let the engine sort of decide where within that volume that target's going to spawn. Now, that's not quite precise enough for what we want. We want to have discrete points where these things will spawn, especially if we want to put them inside, say, doorways or windows. So we're going to use something a little bit different, and that's a target point. We'll look at that in a minute. So let's do our map work first, and then we'll go in and wire it up. So the first thing I want to do is I just want to start off with a trigger because we need some way to get this thing going. So let's go for a box trigger. Let's just drag one of those in. And let's just hit our end key and drop it to the floor. And then the other thing I want to do here is, since our trigger is invisible, we want to have some way of knowing where it is. So let's drag in a plane here. And let's kind of put that where the trigger is just so we know where to stand. All right, there it is there. And let's just bring it up a little bit so we can see it. All right, now before I forget, one thing we do want to do too is let's clone our little target man blueprint here. So let's left mouse button to select him, right mouse button, and then we'll go duplicate. And we can just leave it the default name. The reason I'm doing that is we want to kind of just have one clean blueprint set aside. And we don't want the engine to get confused. So I just want to make a copy of it. Just so for this random sequence, we're going to use this target man exclusively, just so we can kind of keep things clean and tidy. All right, now what we want to do is we want to drag out one of these target points. So let me just filter for a target point. There it is there. Let's bring that into the map, and we can just hit our End key and drop it to the floor. And we can kind of move him back here a little bit. There it is. And now I just want to clone this and just make sure it's selected. Press your Alt key, hold down the Alt key, drag, and then we can just clone that real quick. And what the heck, we'll just put this guy up here for now, just to show that we can put them pretty much anywhere we want. And I don't know how many of these target points you can actually have in a map, but I suspect it's probably unlimited. And today we're just going to go with 5 just for some illustrative purposes. So let's bring this guy up there. All right, and let's clone it a couple more times. We'll go with 5. So that's 3. Let's go ahead and drop that guy to the floor by hitting the End key, and let's clone one more. And there it is there. And we can always bring this guy a little bit forward. Okay, there it is there. And again, we can put these target points anywhere we want. And this is where our little target guy is going to spawn in these points, but it's going to be random. The engine's going to decide which one of these points is actually going to spawn this guy. So, all right, so that's our map work. So we can just go ahead and save that. Now, what we want to do is we want to select all these target points. We can go in and do it individually. Easier way to do it, World Outliner. Let's left click the first one, target point. There it is there. And let's shift mouse button and then hit the last one. That'll select all of them. Now we could best practices is to rename this stuff, but just to save time, we're just going to leave it. Now again, my box trigger I should rename as well, but I'm just going to leave it default for now because we're not going to have too many of them on our map. All right, so we got all those selected. Let's come up here to our level blueprint. Let's open that up. Okay, there it is there. I'm going to right mouse button and I'm just going to do create, just filter for create. Let's see what I want to do here. Create references. So create references to 5 selected actors. Now this is kind of nice because when we click that, it brings them all into the map so we don't have to do it individually. It stacks them up nicely there. So there that is. All right, let's deselect that. I'm going to right click and I'm going to make an array here. Make array. An array is just a fancy name for a list. So there that is there. And we're going to add some pins because we have 5 total, so we want to go 4 more. 1, 2, 3, 4. And notice the numbering is 0 to 4, not 1 to 5. It's just kind of the way the engine works. I want to grab these and wire these up to each one of these little channels. So let's go ahead and do that. It's kind of therapeutic, so there it is there. And it looks pretty cool with all those things connected there. All right, perfect. There it is there. Now let's drag out of here, and let's make sure this context sensitive is checked. And I'm going to go get copy. So let's see here, get copy, get a copy, and it's a function, so there it is there. All right, perfect. And then let's drag out of here, and then what we want to do here is go random integer in range. There it is there. Now I'm not going to explain what this does until we get it all wired, and then I'll kind of talk you through it. No point in sort of explaining each little sequence. Now, since we've got a range of 0 to 4, we want to adjust this number here. So we want to put a 4 in there, not 44. There we go. Okay, perfect. All right, now what we want to do is we want to drag out of here, and we want to get actor reference, get actor transform. Sorry, get actor transform. And it doesn't take prisoners. You have to get it perfectly right. Type it in perfectly. So there it is there. Okay, perfect. Get actor transform. Right mouse button here. And I'm going to go spawn actor from class. Right there. Pop that in there. And before we forget, let's tell it what class. So we want to search for our target man. We want that number 1, right? We want to leave the first one alone. So let's go with number 1. Okay, there it is there. And we want to come out of this return value and hit that spawn transform. And if you notice, the little tabs are orange, so we know we can, that's a good connection, so we can go ahead and do that. Now we've got to add a couple more things. I'm going to deselect that. And let's go actor destroy, or destroy actor. Destroy actor. Destroy actor. Whoops. All right, put that guy in there. All right, and it's selecting all those. We can just delete that. That's fine, just like that. Okay, perfect. Let's put in a couple of delays to those, and we'll just hit Control-C and Control-V for copy. And then we have to bring our trigger in here. And if you remember from our, oh gosh, past video, it's pretty simple to do. Just make sure our trigger is selected. So we'll just click on our trigger here, make sure it's selected. We'll go back into the blueprint. right mouse button and add event for trigger box 7. So let's expand that, expand the collision, add on actor, begin overlap. That's what we want. Okay, perfect. All right, so this is how we're going to wire this up. All right, we're going to come out of here and go into this delay. Let's see here. Oh, you know what we should do before we wire this up real quick, before we forget, let's set our durations. I'm just going to set these numbers for now, and then I'll explain what they're doing in a second. Okay, so just so we don't forget that. All right, so now out of here we want to get our target. So blue to blue, there it is there. And then out of, let's see here, out of this first delay, we want to come down here. And just follow the way I'm wiring it up, and I'll explain it in just in a second. So, all right, so once this is complete, we want to destroy that actor to go there. We want to come up here and hit that. And then when it's completed, we want to come here. Okay, perfect. All right, so that's the wiring. So let me explain what we're doing here. So when we hit that trigger, we're going to have a 2-second delay, and that delay is nice because we could put up text or we could put up a timer basically saying, stand by, in 2 seconds the targets will pop up. And again, we can adjust that to whatever our liking is, and so we'll just leave it for 2 seconds for now. So once we step in that trigger, it's going to wait 2 seconds and it's going to fire, and then it's going to spawn that actor. And it's going to decide where to spawn that actor based on 5 target points. We're going to get a random number between 0 and 4. And that's where we're going to transform and spawn the actor. So that's kind of how that works. Now, once that actor is spawned, it's going to set out a signal to this delay here, which is up here. It's going to wait 1.5 seconds, which means the target will linger for 1.5 seconds. And after 1.5 is gone, it's going to get rid of the actor. Then it's going to hit us again, 2-second delay, and then it's going to start the whole cycle again. So hopefully that's clear as mud, but there it is. Just follow along and wire it up, and rest assured it works. So if we go into the map and we hit that trigger, 2 seconds later, we should get our targets popping up randomly. And it's basically the engine's deciding where it's going to pop it up. So there it is there. Now, just to add something here, like these concepts that I'm showing, we've got specific usages for them. That is, we're popping up random targets here. But this same wiring could pop up, say, randomly pickups, or enemies, or use your imagination. So it's kind of a foundation to build other things. So just pay attention to how it's wired, and you can adapt this to whatever you like. So, and you can see it's sort of popping up randomly. And if we shoot them, well, if we actually shoot them, we should get our points, and there it is there. So perfect. All right, so that'll cover your spawning targets randomly. So let's have a look at how to pop up our little guy with that sort of rotation. I think that's a nice move. So let's have a look at that. So first thing we're going to do is let's duplicate our target man just to keep our map tidy so the engine doesn't get confused here which target man we're using. And we'll just use the default name. So we'll go ahead and do that. Now we're actually going to have to make one change on this guy. So let's pop him open and let's go into our viewport, and there he is. And what we want to do is let's grab him and let's rotate him. So let's go 90 degrees. And then we're going to orientate him on this scene just like this, because we want that pivot point to be at the bottom. We kind of want it to pivot along that edge there. Now, it's not perfect. It's pretty close. All right, and he's going to just sort of pivot up along this axis here. So that's the change we have to make there. So let's go ahead and compile and save that guy, and we can close him now. Now let's place him on the map. I don't know, right about there. And let's just drop him down under the floor right about there, just so we can't see him. Okay, there he is there. And then we just have to add a trigger and our little plane here just so we can get the sequence going. So let's go ahead and add a trigger, box trigger. We can put it right in front of our player so we don't have to run around. Okay, there he is there. Let's grab one of these planes just so we know where our trigger is. Let's get a little closer. All right. And, you just place these triggers in your map so the player hits them. I'm thinking these are sort of for corridors, but, again, we can adjust these as needed. This is just for illustrative purposes. Okay, there he is there. I want to put the target guy a little farther away, just a little bit. Okay, there he is there. Control H. Okay, that's our map work. And let's just grab our little actor guy, our little blueprint guy there, and let's go up to our level blueprint. There it is there. I'm just going to right click and let's create a reference to that target man. Let's get that out of the way there. Okay, now one thing that we have to do is we have to take this off the event begin play, but we already have one on the map that's putting our widget for our score on the in the HUD. And unfortunately, we only get one event begin play, and we can't drag multiple lines out of this. So how we can get around that is let's add a sequence. There it is there. And that lets us basically split this event begin play. And we'll wire that up in just a second. So, all right, so out of this guy, now what we're doing up here is we're just telling the engine where the initial position of the target man is. Although it's in our map, it doesn't know where it is, so we have to tell it where it is. So this is what we're doing here. So there's our little reference. Let's drag out of here and let's get actor location. There it is there. And we're going to drag out of here and we're going to promote to variable. And let's call that variable, I don't know. Let's see here. Target man. Now, if you ever wonder why I can't type while I do videos, it's because I got a big microphone in my face and I'm kind of reaching around it. So I do apologize. I know I'm making excuses, but that's kind of the story I've got and I'm going to stick to it. All right, so, and this guy is number 2, and we'll go initial position. Okay, there it is there. Now, so what we want to do is we want to break this trace here. So just Alt left mouse button. We'll take that event begin play, and this sequence lets us have one input and multiple outputs. So we can go, I'm just going to crisscross here just because I want this to happen first. I don't think it really matters. I think this sequence happens pretty much instantaneously, but just for my own sanity. And then we can just drag out of here and put that there. So now we've told the engine where initial position for our target man blueprint 2 is. Okay, so that's done. Now let's go back into our map. And let's make sure that our trigger is selected this time. And I'm going to actually rename that trigger because we have more than one on the map. So we'll call that trigger rotate. Rotate. There we go there. Let's make sure it's selected. Let's go back into the blueprint. Let's right click and then add event for trigger rotate. Let's expand that. Let's expand collision and on actor begin overlap. Okay, there it is there. Perfect. Now what I want to do is right click. Let's deselect that. Right click and just come down here to a timeline, add timeline. And let's call it, oh, I don't know, target man rotate. There it is there. Let's zoom in a little bit. Let's pop it open and we want to add a float track. So let's click float track and we can name that, you know, target man rotate. There he is there. And we're just going to add 2 keyframes. So shift left mouse button 1, 2. There it is there. Let's click on the first one. And let's determine our length first. Let's see here. I think 0.25 seconds is good because we want it to be fast. So let's go to 0.25. So our first keyframe selected. Let's go 0 and 0. There it is there. Let's click on the second one and we want to go 0.25 for the time and we want to go 90 because we want to flip that thing up 90 degrees. So there it is there. We know how to do this. Zoom into fit. Okay, there it is there. That's all we need to do. Let's compile and save. And let's go back into the event graph. So there that is. And we can just wire this up right now. Play. There we go. All right. Now we got to add in a few nodes. Let's put in a delay. I kind of like putting the nodes sometimes whenever I can. Sometimes we can't drag out of things. So I just put the nodes in and then I wire it. It's kind of logical the way I work. Okay, there it is there. If it doesn't work for you, then do it differently. But this kind of works for me. All right, now what we want to do is right click and we want to go make rotate rotator. There it is there, make rotator. Perfect. And we want to grab that reference to our target guy. So let's click up here, Control C, deselect, and Control V. There he is there. Perfect. And we want to drag out of this guy. Let's zoom in a little bit. There he is there. And let's go to get root component. There it is there. Perfect. And now we want to go set relative location. So right mouse button. And we want to go set relative. Well, I'm going to have to go context. Set relative. Set relative location. There it is there. Perfect. Okay, and that's all we need. So let's wire this thing up. All right, so what we want to do is we want to come out of here. From update in our timeline to set relative location there. We want to come out of this root component and hit our target there. And then for our rotation, target man rotation, we want to come into our X. That's what we want to rotate around is our X axis. So there it is there. And then our return value, we want to go to the new location. So I think we can come right in there. Okay, we can't do that. What am I not doing correctly here? Target, new rotation, set relative Okay, we did location. We don't want that. We want rotation. So set relative rotation, not location. There we go. Okay. Although my mother thinks I'm perfect, I'm far from perfect. So there's evidence of that. Okay, so let's try that again. So we're going to come out of here into our target. We're going to go update and wire that there. Let's move these two guys down. All right, there it is there. And then our return value from here, we want to go into our new rotation. Okay, there it is there. And then for our delay, what we want to do, and I'll just explain this in a moment, we want to come out of here and hit that there, and then our delay will come up here in reverse. Okay, so what we're doing here, a little messy. Once we hit that trigger, it's going to play that rotation, and this is kind of telling it where it starts and then what the relative rotation is. We just need this to sort of buttress up this sort of timeline. So there it is there. So once it rotates up, it's going to hit our delay, and we should adjust that delay. And this is how long our target's going to linger. So let's put 1.5 seconds there. Okay, so once it rotates up, it's going to sit there for 1.5 seconds, and it's going to reverse its direction. So it's going to go back down again. So, all right, so let's compile and save. And when we go into the map, it should work if we hit that trigger, and there he pops up, and we can shoot him. So, all right, so that's the second way of bringing up our target, and that's going to work out quite well for our target shooter game. And that'll do it for this episode. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It's totally free of cost and obligation. Otherwise, give us a like, dislike, share the video with friends, or leave us a comment below the video. And a huge thank you to all the new subscribers as well as our current subscribers. It means the world to us, and it really motivates us to keep making more videos. So stay tuned for more video game design and model building videos. So keep editing, and as always, stay well and all the best.